welcome back to my podcast, Filmmaking, actually. Ta-da! All right, today I want to talk about how much you should charge. This is a very, how shall we say, charged topic. But I saw an interesting post ages ago. I've seen lots of them, but this one inspired me to make I think it was a LinkedIn post, and I wrote it down and I was like, I should make this into a podcast episode. So here I am making a podcast episode. So basically, someone was saying what they charge for their services, but they didn't say where they were located or what their cost of living was. This is very relevant because cost of living for the area where the item is being sold is really important when comparing rates. It's also why internet sales are a thing and why places like Fiverr and Etsy are really hard to price compete. If you live in New York City, you need way more money to live than someone who lives in a teeny tiny town in the middle of nowhere. But you're both on the same platform selling the quote unquote same thing. The small town person looks like they're undercutting the city, but they don't have $7,000 a month in rent, food, and bills. Also, that's kind of why so many people started flooding rural towns and sadly driving up the prices there. They have big city bank accounts and they're used to city prices, so jacked up small town rates seem like a steal to them. For companies or freelancers who are unicorn focused, meaning their profit first mindset, we got to come up with a better word than unicorn. Unicorns are magical and majestic, and I hate that they're associated with this. But companies or freelancers who are profit first mindset, yeah, it doesn't matter what the local cost of living is. You just want to price your work as high as possible. And if people can't afford you, that's their problem. You know, you target the rich, hope to find people who will pay you whatever exorbitant fee that, you want for that area's economy, but you'll get paid and you'll make out with a huge profit. Now, if priority is providing services that help your community grow, zebra mindset, herd animal wanting everybody to win, then you can charge fair rates for comfortable living in your area, plus expansion, and be priced in a range affordable to the people in your community so that you can be of service more to them and not just the rich, and the community can grow together. Now, of course, there will always be people who can't afford anything, either because of how they prioritize their spending or because they just genuinely don't have the resources. Unless you're actually a charity, you shouldn't run your business like one. And even if you're a freelancer, you still are a business. Your price point does not need to be affordable for the lowest paying customer possible. It means that your rate covers what's called the cost of goods sold, which means the materials you need to make your service plus any, overhead, operating expenses, administrative time, things like marketing costs, shipping, gas, machinery wear and tear, upgrades, amortization. If you're not familiar with what that is, it's basically setting money aside to pay for things that are eventually going to break or run down or need to be repaired or replaced. Whatever elements go into the actual making of the thing, and also having some money for growth, and very important, so that the people who are working are paid a living wage for their zone and the business is able to expand and grow and provide more services to their community or their client base. That's what your rate should cover. It also means that someone in Montreal shouldn't necessarily have rates on par with someone in Austin, Texas, who shouldn't necessarily have rates on par with someone in a small town in South Dakota, who shouldn't necessarily have rates on par with someone in a small suburb in Kansas. All of those people comparing rates, like those places have huge differences in cost of living, both high and low. Being financially accessible while being financially viable aren't independent things. You can price your work, you can price it high, you can price it low to fit your local economy and be paid a fair exchange for your work. And so many pieces come into play with this. I mean, honestly, when someone is looking at pricing a project, there's so many questions to ask on top of all of that. Things like, you're an editor, how much work is it really? Is the footage straightforward? Or the cut straightforward? Is it easy enough to put together? Or is everything literal madness and it'll take hours just to get the files in order? Because putting the files in order is part of the time. How much money would you need to make to be able to spend time on it? Or how much time could you spend in helping it without it affecting you adversely? We had a client, I almost never do this. We actually fired a client last year because it was not working. We were giving them a huge discount and we were trying so hard to help them, but they weren't like an official nonprofit, but they were like doing things to kind of try to better society, and they were, for a good cause, and the person was self-funding it. We wanted to help them. the amount of time that their project took, not even just in the actual doing of the work, but all of the conversations and the planning and the replanning and the reviewing and the re-reviewing and the internal conversations to try to understand what it is they wanted and then get it. It was so much work. We were losing so much money. I couldn't afford it. It wasn't fair to my staff, and we had to let them go. And that is rare. I don't remember the last time we fired a client. It was a lot. When we tried for months. So how much money do you need to be able to spend time on it? I mean, if they wanted to pay us like probably 6 times what they were paying us, we could have afforded it, I guess, maybe a little bit more. But it was getting to the point where we couldn't spend the time on it. It was affecting us adversely. And then are there other benefits to doing the project behind the financial? Meaning, like, is this someone who you could genuinely work with in the future? Is this a filmmaker who doesn't edit? They're new in their career. They have funding for this film. Maybe partnering with them now could be mutually beneficial with like one of these rising tide lifting all ships situations. But also, do you have the means to support them now and have it go nowhere if it ends up going nowhere? Your time is an investment. And the time that you spend on doing things is an investment. And even if you don't want to be like, I'm just an artist, I don't want to talk about like money and invest. You need to eat. I'm sorry, you can't eat paintbrushes. Like, you need to eat. So if you don't want to think about it as your time as like an investment, if that word is like whatever, then don't think of it as an investment. Just think of it as your time is yours. Like, that is moments that your heart is beating in the duration of your lifespan. And what happens during those heartbeats, that's it. You only get so many heartbeats. So how do you want to use your heartbeats? If that helps better define it for you, then use that as a metric. How many heartbeats do I want to put into this? And if they give you anxiety and raise your heart rate, that's a lot more heartbeats. So yeah. Another thing, and when I ask this question, oh my goodness, I wish people would just give me a straight answer. What is their budget? And is that something you're willing to work within the range of? When I ask people, what is your budget? I am not trying to milk you for money. 99.9999% of the time, your budget is so much lower than what I would have charged you if I just gave you a quote. Usually when I ask what your budget is, it's because I want to understand what you're working with. I want to know what your resources are, and I don't want to waste my heartbeats. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste your time. I want to be able to give you a quote that's on par with what you're looking at. We had someone come to us once and they were like talking about this artist they had. They kept saying, yeah, we've got a budget. It's great. And they, it's totally cool. I gave them a couple rough numbers. They were like, yeah, that's great. And they wanted lyric videos, like where it's like the lyrics of the song, and they wanted like kind of different versions. When I tell you, my husband and I spent like days putting together, we actually went to the artist's page, downloaded their actual songs and made sample videos, not full videos, but a good 10, 15 seconds for each one with like motion graphics. Like, we went all out because from what they were saying, this is going to be a huge project. Never again. We do not do anything on spec anymore. Like, done. We put all this time and effort into it. And then they were like, actually, we don't have the budget. I'll get back to you. Blah, 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 never mind. And that was it. And I was like, and it wasn't even that, I could totally hear the grumpy grumps out there going like, well, how bad were the videos you made? The videos you made were awesome. Okay. And they loved the videos. That wasn't the problem. And to be fair, I never saw this artist come out with lyric videos after talking to us, which tells me it wasn't an us problem. It was a them problem. Because if they just didn't like us, they would have hired someone else, but they hired nobody. Nobody got hired. So when I ask, what's your budget? And when you ask someone, what is their budget? It is a genuine question, so we can best understand how to help you and how to put together a quote that's within what you can afford. Because if you tell me your budget is $5, I'm going to say, that's amazing. Let me introduce you to one of my interns who maybe can help you for free. I can't help you for $5. I can't. I have a landlord who isn't going to take your demo CD as my rent payment for the month, unfortunately. And again, what is the scope of work? What is actually needed and how much work is needed? I'll pick a different, maybe you're going to be wardrobe styling. Are you going to be purchasing? Is that purchase budget coming out of your budget? Is there an additional purchase budget? Are you going to be making clothing from scratch? Like, are you cutting and designing patterns that are going to be hand sewed by you? How much of that time is covered? How much of the patterns are covered? Are the materials covered? Are the materials coming out of what you're being paid? There's so many questions to ask when it's like the scope of work. What exactly is happening? Then there's some other questions. Could it turn into more work? Is this relationship, I mentioned this earlier, is this relationship potentially a good relationship to have? That's an important question. And it's a tough question because sometimes you don't want to have a relationship with people in the future. We were working with a client once where we were like, hey, this is great. They did not have a big budget. We covered, I think, about $6,000 of their budget. And I say we covered because when you discount something, that money has to come from somewhere. Like it's not that, oh, it's just a discount. Like I always think of David Rose from Schitt's Creek going, you just write it off. Like you don't write, like who's paying for it? When we give you a discount, we're paying for it. I still have to pay my staff the same amount of money. I don't go to my employees and be like, hey, we gave this guy 20% off, so you're getting 20% off your paycheck. That's not how that works. I have to pay them 100% of their paycheck to do the job we did for you for 20% off. So yeah, we covered about $6,000 worth of their project, and it got, let's just say they were ungrateful. And they were toxic. It was not someone we wanted to deal with. And they started threatening us with like, this, and, we should just terminate our contract. And we said, okay, your contract is terminated. Here's your termination fee for terminating your contract. Bye. It was a mess, and you have to make that decision. And sometimes it's hard, but you have to ask yourself, is this a relationship that you want to have? And will it genuinely turn into more work that will genuinely be good for you? Or will it eat every emotional and physical and financial resource that you have? So these are things you have to look at when you're setting your price. Another thing is if you're just getting started, experience matters. I'm so sorry, but it does. Doing something and knowing about doing something are two very, very, very different things. Having stuff on your resume that you have actually done matters, especially if you're trying to get a paying job. We will hire untrained interns all day long. You're not going to get paid for it. We're going to train you. And we will hire first-time entry-level minimum wage people all day long. We expect very little from you, and we're going to train you. But if you want to come to us as a professional and get hired as a professional, you better know what you're doing. So having that experience helps. Sometimes, you give a little bit of a discount. You get to put it on your resume. You did the thing. Amazing. Some of this you might not be able to determine in the first conversation with a potential client. Some of it, honestly, you kind of need to learn as you go, and you're only going to get the experience and knowledge and kind of figure out how to navigate it over multiple projects and multiple experiences. I will say, I think I mentioned 2 negative clients in this. I would have to count how many clients we've had since we started. I don't know how many clients I've had, like I had my first social media management client, I think in 2012. I have absolutely no idea how many clients I've had personally, but since the company started in 2013, late 2013, I have no idea. Like I lost track. We've had some amazing, amazing clients, lovely people. We love working with businesses and brands we totally support. So it's not all bad. I'm giving you the nightmare examples so that you have some of those for context. But the point is that sometimes you just need that experience, and it takes a while to be able to kind of weed out and be like, ooh, I don't want to work with this person. I want to work with that person. And then you just get more of that person, and then it's great. So another thing that you want to look at is this going to give you that experience? And also, if it's not something that's going to be paying you very well, how much time can you afford to spend on it outside of a paycheck if it ends up taking longer than expected, or if it is more work than expected? Or how much time can you afford to donate to form a connection? And is that something you want to do? You can always, there's 24 hours in a day. You spend, maybe 8 hours sleeping. You should anyway. A couple hours eating, going to the bathroom, all that stuff. However many hours a day working. There's still a good 5 to 6 hours a day that you can do whatever you want with. Okay, I'm talking about like a single person starting out in the world who does not have a family, isn't working 2 jobs, etc. And if you're doing all that, you probably can't afford to spend extra time on things you're not getting paid for. But these are all questions you have to ask yourself and kind of put together, okay, what do I want from all of this? I used editing as an example before. Some people edit a short film for $100 as their first project, and it's $100. The filmmaker's like, yay, I'm getting my film edited for $100. And the editor's like, yay, I'm getting $100. And professional editors will be like, you're not walking into my world for less than $1,000. And that's fair. If you have more experience because of, than the average college student, but you're new to hired work, then figure out based on the other questions what you can afford to pay. Find out what their budget is for real. See if that works for you. And I do have a separate episode on what's your rate, what's your budget, if you want to navigate that conversation. But yeah, those are all important questions to ask yourself. Things to keep in mind. How much is this going to cost you? How much do you need to make what is it going to cost? Who is it going to affect? I mean, for me, we were volunteering for a nonprofit for, I think it was like 3.5 months. And I loved it. I would volunteer all day long. The only problem is I'm the one doing the work. And it was literally me volunteering my time. I was like, I'll do it. The only problem is that's all time that I'm not doing anything else that I need to be doing. And I have a company to run, and I have staff that depend on me, and I have people who, if I mess up, it affects their paycheck. And if their paycheck gets messed up, that affects their life. And that is a lot of pressure. Starting a business is not for the faint of heart. This episode really is more geared towards freelancers, but if you are running a company or you're a business owner or you have other people kind of involved in you, the question is, how much can you not afford to pay people? Like, how much do you need to be able to operate? And operating costs is more than just salary. You have to pay taxes. You have to pay overhead costs. You have to pay software licensing fees. You have to pay electricity. You have to pay, any number of things depending on your industry. So how much should you charge? There is literally no one in the world who can answer that question except for you. So what's the answer? I'll catch you next time. Bye.
You've been listening to Filmmaking Actually with Koura Linda, Space Dream Productions podcast. Subscribe to us on any or all the podcast platforms. If you like what you hear, leave us 5-star ratings and positive reviews on iTunes. It helps more listeners like you discover the show. But the best thing you can do if you really like the show is tell a friend. Want to leave a comment or ask a question? Email at filmmakingactually@gmail.com. This is Space who's speaking, and remember,
who wants to make $5?
How?
I need someone to take the fall.
Oh my God! What did you do?
I can't tell you. Yes or no, no questions asked.
Oh my God! Make it 10.
Done.
Oh my God!
You're a good son. I got him, honey! I got him, don't worry!
and we'll see you next time.